Something that I really believe in is data, because at the end of the day, we can feel one way or another way, but data, well, that is going to be the thing that's really going to show exactly how it is, or at least offer research that can build a stepping stone to an even greater understanding of the topic at hand. Now, obviously, that is where research comes in, and I think it's very fascinating when research is actually done on video games, video game trends, the playing of video games, that sort of thing. When I was in school, I rolled my eyes over the mere mentioning of data or research or studies. You know, when I hear those words, I think we're going to talk about, copper mines or agriculture or economics, and while those topics sure may interest some, it just doesn't interest me. But video games, on the other hand, that's kind of cool when you can bring actual research to that topic. Now, this isn't the first time I've seen research on video games or video game related topics, but I'm really interested in just continuing to observe this sort of new research on the topic. I think it's very cool because something that came along my way today, something that kind of blew up in the past week that some people in this field are talking about, is this recent study by the Oxford Internet Institute that, spoiler alert, concluded that video games and the playing of video games does not significantly impact people's mental well-being. Now, this is obviously in contrast to, I think, what the general norm of what people think of video games, how they are, and I kind of have some thoughts on that too. I'll kind of save that for after I mention the specifics here, but so yeah, this study, it was done on 414 adult gamers in the US and the UK, specifically on Xbox. Now, it notes that in recent research, it has relied on self-reporting of the amount of time spent playing video games, and that obviously has its room for error. So something that was very interesting and unique with this research is that they took into account how long people were playing video games simply by viewing their online status. I thought that was kind of cool. So the research was over 12 weeks, and every 2 weeks, participants would take a survey basically asking about their mental health. So then after the 12 weeks, they compared the numbers. They looked at the people that didn't play video games a lot and people that played a lot of video games, and then they looked at their mental health, how it changed, how it went up and down. And what they found is that the amount of time spent playing video games, well, it didn't have a significant impact at all on the mental well-being of these participants, meaning that in more specific terms, the study is concluding that there's no observable link between playing video games and mental health problems like depression, anxiety, stuff like that. So that is very interesting. Now, the study does also sort of mention, and I saw others mentioning it as well, that this study is a bit specific. It's only focusing on adult gamers, so notably children, minors, people under 18, that obviously is a very big demographic of gamers. Yeah, they are not included in this study. There's that, and then it also kind of talks about how other sources of stress, other big life events that happened within those 12 weeks, those weren't necessarily considered in the study itself. But overall, every study has its limitations, and I think this study was really cool, and it shed a lot of light on probably a common stereotype or misrepresentation of gaming. Now, that being said, am I using this as a way to say, hey, quit your job, only, sleep 4 hours a day and just play games 20 hours a day? No, of course I'm not saying that. Like all forms of recreation, there is clearly a problem when it becomes, addictive. And there's other stuff too, like I know generally speaking, for me anyway, I just overall feel more sluggish and more tired, and sometimes ironically have a little bit more anxiety when I just stay in all day and play video games, if it's one of those days. I definitely think, at least in the short term, that my mental health is always better if for whatever reason I take some time to go outside, take a walk, do whatever. But again, that is just in the short term. I think this study is specifically focusing on the long term. The common misconception is that video games, they can cause long-term, big, life-changing mental health problems like depression, stuff like that, or they can make it much worse in the long run. And I think this study showed that no, that is a misrepresentation. I mean, while everybody is different, sure, and everybody has just overall different experiences with video games and how it affects them, I think that overall this was a great study that gives us more insight into something that is quite often misunderstood.